Hey everybody, how's it going? This is going to be a little bit longer video than I normally do, and I thought I'd do an intro. If you want to just see the more exciting parts of the video, flying through the arch and my failed launch, my first kind of crash on launch, if you want to call it that, I'll put some links in the description to the time places so you can go straight to those and see that stuff. But I thought what I'd do with this video is just walk you through some of the highlights and lowlights of my trip that I took to the Utah area, the Corona Arch. I basically got to fly through that, conquer the Corona issue here in 2020. Before I do that, just before the trip, I'll show you the route here in a second, but before the trip I started having some issues with my engine, my motor. The clutch was sticking, so ordered a replacement parts, got a clutch and put it on there, and while I was at it, it was about time to replace the bearings on the eccentric, the main pulley, prop shaft, if you will, on my Moster, and I messed that up. One of the things, I had replaced those bearings a couple different, probably 3-4 times. I've replaced those by just replacing the bearings and keeping my old eccentric shaft, but this time around, I don't know, I guess I got in a hurry. I wanted to make sure it was right for the trip, and I ended up messing up. Here's what I'm talking, the part I'm talking about, the main pulley and the eccentric that goes on the shaft. There's bearings inside there. I can't do this with one hand, but I basically, too much heat, too much banging on them to get them in there because I didn't get the heat right, and I messed this up. I ended up banging on the front of it where I couldn't get my prop spacer on there properly, and so I was in a world of hurt, and had to end up I was starting to wonder if I was going to go to Moab and the Corona Arch without having a motor to fly with because of screwing that up after doing a little extra work beyond the clutch repair. But I got it all sorted, as you'll see, and the big learning for me is, it's a little more money, but if you can buy these things, the entire assembly, you can buy the eccentric with the bearings already installed on it and pop them into the pulley, or actually I think some places will sell you the entire thing, and that's what I did. I got that shipped to my brother-in-law's house in Oklahoma, and got it on before I really embarked on the trip. So here I'll give you kind of an overview of the rest of the story. So we started our trip on the west side of Houston, headed north. I usually go through Waco and the Fort Worth area, just a little nicer trip than going up the I-45 through the Dallas side of things. Ended up going, picking up the family in Oklahoma, getting the parts. They arrived. That was at my brother-in-law's, so that was awesome. Brother and sister-in-law's. That was awesome. Got the parts, put them on, and you see the Goldsby airport there flagged on the map. That's where I took a quick test flight. A brief little clip that one of the Oklahoma City local flyers came out and flew with me. He took of me of my takeoff that morning. It was there were low clouds, fog, off the ground, but fog. So we kept it short, stayed around the airport, but I did manage to get in and kind of verify my motor was running good, the repairs were good. So here's kind of the route we took from Oklahoma. Basically head straight west through Amarillo, head up. I actually spent the night in Farmington, not shown on the map there, but we're headed to Arches National Park right there. We stayed in Moab and visited several places, but ended up flying the Corona Arch. A zoomed in map satellite view of the Moab. It's the green area you see there. You got the blue highway, or the road that goes along the Colorado Valley. In the Corona Arch, I'm kind of moving my mouse over it. It's right there by the bow tie arch. So, anytime I fly something like that, want to scout it out. I joined, there's a Moab PPG Facebook group that they put together a Google document that gives you some of the sites. That was really, really helpful. They definitely recommended going out and hiking the arch before you fly it. I'm sure that's a great thing to do, which I did not do. I did have my family there. They were going to hike it while I flew it, and we didn't time that quite as well as we thought, but here's kind of the drive in. I'm scouting out, you know, what the canyon's like, and driving along. This is, you know, leaving Moab, headed south along that first entry point into the area. And here we're pulling over and gonna have a look. There's some petroglyphs, I think, you know, old writing on the wall, on the canyon walls there, that we stopped and had a look at. It's pretty cool. See a lot of that stuff. And get back on the road. This is, I'd already gone to the, not the end of Potash Road, but down to where I eventually launched from. And now we're headed back. You got the train tracks on the left. I'm headed north. The arch would be up ahead and to the right. So I'm kind of headed back upriver, I think it is. And just a kind of a scenery. This is where, if I were to fly low in the canyon approaching the arch from the launch site, this is kind of what the emergency LZ on along the road, the train tracks, or if you wanted to land on a sandbar, this is kind of representative of what it would look like. There were a couple of power lines I spotted, not in this area, but as you get kind of in one of the first main bends across up high on the canyon. I think they go to the potash plant facility that they have down there at the end. And anyway, I just thought I'd show some of this footage. You get a sense of what you'd be flying in, and obviously you want to be really cautious about the rotor that you would have. So I was definitely worried about the rotor. I got out next morning. The winds aloft, according to Ryan Carlton, were showing, I think it was 6-7 miles an hour, which had me a little bit worried. But I thought, hey, it was low enough. I thought, well, I'll go up and see. Get out, find a spot. You know, I think Tucker God, all the paramotor guys know who he is, and the ones that don't paramotor know he's the guy that would know him as the guy that flew to McDonald's on his paramotor. But I looked at his videos. Several other folks had posted videos, kind of scoped out where they launched from, the Moab PPG group. Anyway, with the wind that I had, I picked this spot laid out in the road, dirt road, and planned to run down the road. Pretty light winds at the surface where I was at, so kind of a low wind launch. I always like to try to get some air moving above my wing to help me pull it up. And you know, I guess I found I knew it was going to happen. Density altitude, it's a little more challenging launching in the higher altitude.
Chicken!
You see, I didn't quite make the first launch. Didn't commit, didn't put enough power into it, and so walk the wing back up the road, lay it out again. And you know, I was nervous about the winds on this particular day anyway, but I was going to give it another try. So we'll get the motor started again for attempt number 2. As you'll see here, attempt number 2 was successful. A little more power and a little more aggressive run, maybe a little bit better wind. Can't see the windsock from where I was at, but wing came up just fine and managed to keep it in the road so I didn't have to run off in the rocks, which could be an issue. Foreshadowing my the third day. We'll get to that later on in the video, but basically took off and uneventful, not too bumpy. I mean, if this was a day in South Texas in the flatlands, man, I would have just tore it up and had a lot of fun. But back in my mind, I'm thinking about the 6 mile an hour. What kind of rotor is going to come off of those canyon walls? The area where I launched is the canyons. Let's call it, is pretty wide. You're not in the narrow canyon areas, so I'm circling around and kind of checking out some of the sites. There's an area, I'd watched Tucker's video and as I said, other videos, checking out some of the areas he had launched from. Went and see the boat ramp and the river, and basically felt a few bumps and chickened out, as you'll see. So I'll give you a view of the area. The sun had come up after my initial first launch. I didn't get out there quite as early as I had wanted to. So decided to bring it back in for a landing. Set up for a road landing just like my launch. Really wasn't, I was a little nervous about the launch, how that was going to go, especially after the first failed one, but the landing wasn't much of a concern. I kind of had a longer dust cloud and a little longer skid, wore my good shoes instead of my normal racing ones, but here you get some of my post-flight reaction.
Oh well, better safe than sorry.
So I put the wing away for the day and started looking at the forecast for the evening and the next morning. Turned out the next morning was a good one. I managed to work with my family for their schedule. So they planned a hike, and the winds, what I saw is at 7 a.m. there on the left was 6-7 miles an hour aloft, but at 8 it was dropping down to 1 or 2, which to me told me it was going to be a pretty calm day. If I was going to have a chance to get out, this was probably going to be it.
The winds are good. Irrational fears, calm thyself. Tricky part's going to be the launch, because I'm afraid I wanted to go downhill for the density altitude business. Maybe it's the right way now. But it's almost dead calm, but the hints I've had have been kind of mixed. Some of it has me where I would need to go uphill. I said, heck with that. We're going to try downhill. We've got as good a wing layout as I ever get. We're going to try a little power, more power risk on the power forward than usual. And where can I run and where can I not run? Talking to myself, thinking about if I got to run off the road, is it okay to run to the left? Is it okay to run to the right? I should be able to bounce around to the right if I need to. Probably I'll need to go left though. I gotta watch my step. I'm using my low wind technique of trying to get some air moving over the wing, and had a successful launch. First attempt on the second day. And right after getting airborne, you always want to have a look around, make sure the wings, everything's the way it ought to be. The lines are all good. So there I was looking up at it. Time to kind of relax, gain some altitude, and figure out if I'm going to go ahead and pull the trigger. Basically, I just feeling the air out at the beginning and make the decision. As you can see, it's well before sunrise. I launched right at 30 minutes ahead of sunrise, and here I decided I didn't want to go up there below the canyon walls. I did a little circle and climb and stay high until I got to the arch. And rather than follow the river, here's one spot. If you're coming from that southern place, you can kind of cut the corner, and the arch is up this canyon here off to the left. There's train tracks below you, so that was kind of a fast forward of the approach from that launch site. And if you can kind of see the arch off to the left. Out here, I'm going to pan around and give you a shot of myself and kind of the altitude that I was at. Again, I was staying up high, thinking the family's probably down there hiking by the arch, and I'd hoped they'd made it there. But trying to figure out my approach. You know, one of the videos I'd seen, Tucker got, I think, came at it from the side that I'm on, kind of the, what is that, the back side? I think it's the north side. I could be backwards on that. But he had kind of come down this way and went through with the canyon walls on the right, at least in the video I remember watching. And I initially started to do that, but as I turned, being high, you know, I wasn't down as low, and I could have easily made a few turns, dropped some elevation, and went through with the canyon walls on my right. But I kind of coasting here, thinking about it, a lot going through my head about where's my out, if I have motor issues or something. And you know, the train tracks below, or I guess were my place of last resort. I'm pretty sure I'd trip up an ankle if I had to go down there. There's a few relatively flat spots if you situate yourself right that you could land on the path here. But probably right about here, I think maybe right about here is where, well, there's my family. They hadn't made it to the arch. There's a couple of them on the left. There's two others that we didn't catch in the video, but you can see that was a little section there where I was pretty much committed to a bad landing, no out. So here's a pass through, the first pass through the arch. I made two of them. Approach it. You know, one thing, the closer I got to it, the more comfortable I was. I knew I would fit. I'd seen the dimensions, seen lots of other people fly through it. Of course, I had a little bigger wing at a 27-meter wing than others, but you know, the clearance was good. But the closer I got, the less worried I was about that. It was just all about the wind conditions in the rotor. And honestly, I didn't feel the slightest bump. I had just fabulous, fabulous wind conditions for this. So couldn't have picked a better day or time, I don't think. Decided I had to go down through it. While I was flying, I thought my family was at the arch. You'll see after I go through here, I'll wave, and there's a couple of groups of people off along the canyon wall that I might get a glimpse of them there. That I thought it was my family taking pictures, but after I got back, turned out they hadn't quite made it there yet. I went too early. So I should have looked closer, but I didn't. But c'est la vie. The people that were at the canyon talked to my family and agreed that they were going to send us the pictures and maybe some video that they took. So I'll include that if I get a chance. But here's a little sped up loop of the flight back. I decided, I was thinking, you know, the conditions were so good. I wanted to get down in the canyon, fly along the road, but the cell coverage is basically non-existent in this area. I was flying alone, and I had the vehicle. My family was relying on me to get back to the vehicle so I could go pick them up. Otherwise, they were going to have to get rides from strangers at the trailhead or the campsite. So I didn't take too many chances. I plundered the arch a couple passes. I just decided, hey, I checked that off the bucket list. I'm going to stay high. And didn't really do any turns, get down play until I got back close to the launch site where the canyon's a lot wider open, and if I landed I could walk to the truck. It wasn't going to be a find an Uber without cell coverage kind of situation. Here's the site, you know, looking at Tucker's video where he camped out up on top of this hill. Looks like a pretty nice place to launch from. Problem is that I think since he had been there, apparently the folks that graded the road and worked on the area, they've clearly put up berms and rocks and made it much more difficult to drive a vehicle up in that area. Certainly an RV sized vehicle would be a bit of a challenge. But as you can see, I made it. Got my second landing, a little bit of a foot drag across the road, brought the wing down and put it away, and we'll share some of my post-flight reaction. That is after I can get the lines that were caught on my helmet as I brought the wing down. Every once in a while that happens. Don't have a GoPro up there or anything, but in this instance, I didn't duck my head enough to get it out of the way of my ear cups, and maybe my Cena back there is what caught some of it.
Woohoo! Okay, a little bit of chicken out at the end, but I did the arch. What a flight. I could have been a lot lower in the canyons and stuff. I just, chicken's not the right, yeah, chicken's the right word, I guess. Just didn't want to push it. I did my arch fly through. It was nice and smooth down there. I could have. The only time I felt any serious bumps was as I was climbing up kind of close, maybe a little bit higher. Oops, excuse me, turn the light off. Is when I was about the top of the ridges over there. So, or maybe I was a little bit above them. But that's when it was just mild bumps. But you know, I'm super cautious, nervous, whatever. Super aware, and man, I couldn't ask for a better day. Look at that windsock. Is it blowing or is it just hanging straight down? It's blowing a tiny bit. Tiny bit.
So put the wing away. Didn't have any plans to fly the arch again, but I did run into a couple guys in my campground the next day as I was about to leave that had paramotors and were planning to fly.
Okay. It's a good day.
So since it was such a good day and I'd successfully plundered the arch, I decided to go again, and that's when I had my biggest slice of humble pie yet, I think. One of the guys' wives got my launch attempts on film, and here I'll show though. Here's the first one. It kind of looks like the first one of the first day. Just wind not in my favor. I probably might have pulled a little bit too much brakes, not hit it hard enough. Here's the second one. This is my worst ever launch/crash. I basically decided I'm going to run off the road. I was probably applying a little too much brake for the lack of headwind, and ended up doing a face forward fall towards some of the rocks. I stumbled, got myself out of the way, and thought I'd help get these guys that hadn't flown the arch yet in the air if they could do it. So here we'll watch them. First guy has one failed attempt, and then they get off the ground. And I'm going to be watching the windsock, you know, a little pretty commentary about when they got cross or a favorable headwind.
It's a little bit in his favor. It's mostly a cross, but it's better than it was a second ago. That's good. Go. Go, it's dying. But I still think it's kind of in the right direction, so that's good. Come on, get it. That's good, hit it hard, hit it. Oh, no. Okay.
We had the same situation, a little more crosswind than headwind, and I helped him reset up the wing and go for attempt number 2.
That's good. Hit it hard, you got it. Yes. Yeah! See, you got nice strong wind there. That helped. Good job. Okay, let's get him up. Oh, it died down. It's the right direction. Oh, there, it's coming. Hit it. You got it. Go. Woo! All right. Well, they're going. I'll give it one try, and then I'm calling it a day if that don't work.
as I said there, I set out the wing, crossed the road for a third attempt, and plan was to take my time. I set it where I could see the windsock, but then just at the wrong time, I got the motor on my back. I got a Jeep coming up the road that wants through, and he would not drive around me. So he's backing up, and thankfully, you know, I didn't have to move off the road and reset. But she comes up and tells me what he's talking about, the fact that he wouldn't drive on the rocks around me. He was just going to back up, which kind of put me in a hurry. I didn't, you know, had somebody waiting on me, and here's excuses. I probably pulled too much brake and other things, but I definitely didn't have a favorable little bit of headwind. You can see there, third launch attempt didn't go. Here's her view from her camera. That had that from my footage. Just too much brake, too much tailwind, maybe poor technique, but I did not get off the ground, and I was good with that. I did hang around till they both came back, and again, you can see from the sky, the sun is up, and all that smoke in the air was definitely not a clear day like I had a couple days earlier.
I suspect.
But they buzzed the area. There's the sun off to the left through the smoke and the haze. And see, decent little wind on the windsock there.
See, we get oh, that's a little high. Oh, he made it though. Good job. Just a different landing style than me. Hey, good job.
And so, how to bring this video to a close, I thought I'd show you a little footage from the trail that we took in my pickup, my 4x4 pickup, after my morning flight to the Arch. This is us, my daughter there and brother-in-law out in front, walking out on, I think it's a point, Thelma and Louise Point, that's what it's called, on the Shafer Trail. It's kind of the end of the Potash Road, heads over towards the Canyonlands National Park Visitor Center. It's one of those, a lot of times it's single lane width dirt road. You know, I drove 17, 18 miles, something like that, mostly in first and second gear, going really slow. This was just a really, really scenic overlook where we walked out and see if we could throw a rock into the water from there. I don't think we ever made it.
Making me nervous.
And here's a little glimpse as we neared the end of Shafer Trail. We had to climb out a bunch of switchbacks. You can see I had the paramotor in the back there. That's after my flight. I picked the family up from their hike and we made this trip. Here's a little glimpse of me hanging the camera out the window as I'm driving up the one lane road, a little turnout where people can pass. Gets a little wider right there. And then we're pretty much at the top. I've climbed out, walked out at an overlook where we can kind of see the road. You can see off to the right there the road, all the switchbacks to basically climb a pretty steep, nearly sheer wall up with your vehicle. And we had come across 17 miles or so across that canyon.
Was the Shafer's
pretty neat trip, pretty neat drive, and if you got the time, I'd recommend it. You definitely want to be able to take it slow and have a vehicle you don't mind hitting a few bumps. But it was a good trip, and thanks for coming along for the ride, everybody.